Oh.
So, my girlfriend shoots me a text that says, "Don't freak out, but I'm grabbing dinner with my boss tonight." I didn't make a scene, I just told her to have a good time. But as soon as I hit send, I went to work. I forwarded her entire paper trail of work emails straight to HR and scheduled a one-way Uber to drop her off right at his wife's law firm. 30 minutes later, my phone started blowing up, and let me tell you, it sounded like a total train wreck on the other end. Now, you gotta understand something about me. I'm 30 years old, and I'm a planner by nature. My whole career is built on logistics. I'm the guy who looks at a complex system, spots the cracks, and makes sure every piece of the puzzle ends up exactly where it belongs, right on schedule. My girlfriend, well, ex-girlfriend now, for obvious reasons, is named Celeste. She's 29, and she always used to tell me I was predictable. She meant it as a dig, but honestly, I took that as a compliment. We'd been together 4 years and living in my condo for 2 of them. I took care of the mortgage and she handled half the utilities and the high-end groceries. Or at least that's how I thought the deal worked. For the last 6 months, though, the math wasn't adding up. She works in marketing, and her 45-year-old boss, Gavin, suddenly started treating her like she was the company's rising star. That meant late-night strategy sessions, weekend client emergencies, and a closet full of designer bags that her paycheck definitely couldn't afford. Whenever I'd bring it up, she'd give me this look like she felt sorry for me. She'd say, "Artie, babe, this is just how the fast track works. You wouldn't really get it." Turns out I didn't get it, but I wasn't blind either. The glitch in her system was our shared living room iPad. We used it for Netflix or ordering pizza, but she'd used it to check her personal email and forgot to log out. I wasn't trying to be a snoop, I promise. I just went to look up a recipe, and there was her inbox wide open. I saw an email she'd sent to herself, forwarding a chain from her work account with the subject line, Q3 expense approvals. It was all there, and it was professional-grade cheating. She wasn't just sleeping with the guy. She was sending him invoices for it, and he was signing off on them. A client dinner for $150? That was the night she told me she was out with her sister. A team-building weekend at a luxury vineyard for $2,200? That covered the spa treatments and the 24-hour room service for a team of exactly 2 people. She even billed contingency supplies for $1,500 at a high-end department store. Funny enough, that's where her new trench coat and those expensive red-bottom shoes came from. There were dozens of emails. Gavin would approve the charges with little notes like, "Happy to help, superstar. See you tonight." And she'd write back, "You're the best. Can't wait." My blood didn't go cold. It just settled. To me, this was just a logistics failure. The shipment, which was my trust, was completely rotten, and the delivery address was all wrong. I sat there for an hour and screenshotted every single bit of it. Every email, every receipt, every flirty reply. I tucked it all away in a secure cloud drive she didn't even know existed. Then I did a little homework. Gavin was married, big surprise there. His wife, Diana, was a partner at one of those high-stakes, shark-infested family law firms downtown. Honestly, it couldn't have been more perfect. So I waited. For 2 weeks, I played the part of the predictable, supportive boyfriend. I cooked dinner. I listened to her complain about work stress. I was just biding my time for the perfect opening. That opening came last night. It was a Tuesday. She was getting all dolled up, full makeup, and using that perfume I can't stand because it's so overpowering. I sipped a beer and asked if it was a big night. She just sighed, fixed her dress, and said, "Gavin wants to review the new campaign. It's just dinner, but it's gonna be so tedious. Don't wait up." She kissed my cheek, and it felt about as sincere as a mosquito bite. She headed out, and at 7:05 p.m., my phone buzzed with that "Don't freak out" text. She even added a condescending little wink emoji. That was my green light. I texted back, "Enjoy," and then I executed the plan. By 7:06 p.m., I'd opened a fresh, anonymous email account and drafted a message to her company's head of HR and the CFO. I titled it Urgent, Expense Report Fraud, and I laid it all out. I told them I was a concerned employee and that Gavin was using company money to fund an affair with his subordinate. I attached the 10 most damning screenshots and hit send. By 7:10 p.m., I was on the Uber app. I knew where they were. Gavin is a creature of habit and always took clients to the same spot. I set the pickup for the restaurant and the destination for Diana's law firm. I sent Celeste a text saying, "Change of plans, your ride is here." And then I blocked her on everything. Phone, social media, the works. I logged her out of the iPad, sat back, and turned on the TV. I wasn't even mad. I just felt efficient. At 7:43 p.m., my phone rang. No caller ID. I let it ring a bit before answering. It was Gavin, and he was whispering like he was hiding in a closet. He sounded terrified. "Who is this? What did you do?" He hissed. "She's at Diana's office. The Uber just dropped her there, and Diana saw her on the security feed." "What is happening?" He was practically hyperventilating. It was beautiful. I told him, "Gavin, old sport. Sounds like you've got a real logistics problem on your hands. You've got a high-value asset in the wrong delivery zone, and it looks like Diana is handling the intake." He told me it wasn't funny and begged me to call Diana and tell her it was a prank. I just asked him if the prank was billing the company for his girlfriend's spa days. Dead silence. He knew he was cooked. I told him straight up, "You and Celeste made a huge mistake thinking I was stupid. I'm thorough. Your superstar has been forwarding her fraud trail to a shared device. You're not just a cheater, you're an idiot who signed off on forged documents. And HR? They got my email about 30 minutes ago." I heard a muffled sob on the other end. I told them both they were done, told him never to call me again, and hung up. The apartment was finally quiet. I grabbed some heavy-duty trash bags and headed for her closet. It was time to clear out the inventory. What would you do in this situation? Would you have played the long game like I did? Or would you have lost your cool the moment you saw those emails? Update. It's been about 72 hours since that Uber ride. The silence at home has been great, but the world outside is getting noisy. Around 1:30 a.m. Wednesday, the pounding started on my front door. Not a normal knock, but a "the world is ending" kind of bang. It was her, screaming, "Arthur, open this door, you psycho. You ruined my life. My career is over." I just sat on my couch with the chain locked and the deadbolt turned, watching a documentary. I didn't move an inch. The pounding on my door didn't stop. Gavin was apparently just the beginning. She started kicking the frame, screaming that she was calling the cops and telling them I'd put my hands on her. Big mistake. I just pulled out my phone and started recording every word of her threats. Sure enough, the flashing lights showed up around 2 a.m. I opened the door as far as the security chain would let me. The officer told me they got a call saying I'd locked a woman out of her own home. I just looked at him, exhausted, and explained the situation. "Officer, this is my condo. She was my girlfriend, but she's not on the mortgage and she doesn't pay rent. We broke up tonight, and for the last 20 minutes, she's been threatening to file a false assault report. I've got the whole thing recorded right here." The cops swapped a look, then turned to Celeste, who was suddenly putting on a world-class performance of hysterical crying. She claimed I'd trapped her and sent her to some witch's office. When the cop asked whose office that was, she actually admitted it. "My boss's wife's office." I just shook my head. "Officer, I ordered her an Uber. She's a grown woman. She could have gone anywhere she wanted. Instead, she decided to make a scene at a law firm. I found out she was stealing from her company and having an affair, so I ended it. Now she's trespassing." The cops realized pretty quickly this was a civil mess. They told her she had to leave and find a place to stay, and that she could coordinate getting her stuff later. She was absolutely livid, screaming about her makeup and her laptop, but they eventually marched her out of the building. I watched from the window as she stomped off to her car, the one I'd co-signed for. That's a problem for tomorrow, Artie, I thought. The next day, the entitlement wave hit. Her mother, Brenda, called me up, acting like I was the one who needed to apologize. She called my move a stunt and told me I'd embarrassed her daughter. Then she dropped the news. Gavin had been fired that morning, escorted out of the building. Brenda tried to play it off as a little mistake, but I wasn't having it. Brenda, I said, spilling wine is a mistake. Using company funds for spa days and designer shoes to cover up an affair is fraud. She's lucky she's not in handcuffs. Brenda's voice went ice cold. She told me Celeste was ambitious, and that Gavin was just mentoring her. She called me a jealous, petty little man with a bruised ego. I told her my ego was doing just fine, unlike her daughter's career. I gave them a Saturday deadline to pick up her things and told them I'd be requesting a civil standby from the police. Brenda threatened me with a lawyer, claiming Celeste contributed to the condo. I just laughed. She bought avocados, Brenda. Good luck with that. The fallout has been massive. A friend of mine in the industry says the news is everywhere. Gavin is toast. His reputation is in the dirt. His wife, Diana, filed for divorce that same night and apparently went nuclear, freezing their assets and countersuing for every dime of his severance. Celeste is still suspended while HR audits her department. Turns out those $1,500 gifts were just the beginning. She's been skimming for nearly a year. Oh, and I got a call from the auto loan company. Surprise, surprise. Celeste missed her payment. Since I'm the co-signer, I handled it. I hired a repo company, paid the fee myself, and had the car towed from her parents' driveway this morning. It's legally mine now. I'm going to sell it to pay off the loan, and she can explain to her mom why the car is gone. Saturday was the big moving day. Right at noon, my buzzer goes off. I look at the camera and see the whole welcoming committee. Celeste, Brenda, and her dad, Frank. Frank's a big guy who's always looked at me like I was a broken toaster. Officer Miller was already in my entryway, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else on earth. I kept it professional. Officer, folks, let's keep this simple. You're here for the boxes. No drama. Brenda immediately started complaining that things were missing, like her antique mirror. I told her exactly which box it was in and that it actually came from a home goods store 2 years ago. Frank tried to step up and intimidate me, calling me a big man for ruining his daughter's life, but the officer shut him down fast. Then Celeste hit peak entitlement. She stopped and demanded to know where her work laptop was. I told her I didn't have it and assumed she'd left it at the office when she got suspended. She screamed that I'd stolen it to get her emails. Celeste, I said, I didn't need your laptop. You left your personal email logged in on the iPad in the living room. You're the one who forwarded the evidence to yourself. You were just sloppy. Her face went from white to bright red in a second. Frank and Brenda stopped dead. You did what? Frank growled at her. You forwarded them? To back them up, she yelled. It's not my fault. I just watched as they started bickering among themselves. Honestly, it was better than a movie. The officer finally had enough and told them to get the boxes and get out. It was time to finally clear the deck. Get out. Right now. I didn't raise my voice, but I meant it. They scrambled. As they were hauling the last of the boxes out, Celeste stopped in the doorway and gave me one last look. This isn't over, Artie, she hissed. I'm getting a lawyer. You unlawfully evicted me and caused me major emotional distress. You're going to end up paying for my new apartment. I just looked at her. I don't owe you a thing, Celeste. You were a guest in my home, and frankly, you weren't a very good one. Goodbye. I shut the door, and Officer Miller just gave me a nod. Good luck, man, he said, and then he was gone. Finally, some peace. Or so I thought for about 48 hours. Then a letter arrived from a lawyer. It wasn't an actual lawsuit yet, just a big, intimidating demand letter. It claimed I'd maliciously and intentionally caused her emotional distress and violated tenant rights. Rights she never actually had. They wanted $10,000 for reputational harm, $3,500 for damaged property, because her blender was apparently making a weird noise, and they expected me to pay her security deposit and rent for a luxury apartment. But the real kicker? She demanded the immediate return of a specific painting that had been hanging in my study. It's this big, ugly abstract piece she brought over one day, claiming she'd bought it at a gallery show. I've always hated the thing. I went into the study, pulled it off the wall, and flipped it over. Right there on the back of the frame was a small metal tag. Property of company name Executive Loan Program. Art piece #088B. I couldn't help it. I started laughing. The woman didn't just steal office supplies. She stole the office art. Gavin probably just let her walk out the door with it. This thing was likely worth thousands. I realized she'd just sent me a legal demand for the return of stolen property. I didn't call my lawyer. Instead, I pulled up that anonymous email account and CC'd Diana's public law firm address. I sent over a photo of the painting and a close-up of the property tag. I told them I wasn't sure what the protocol was, but I assumed their legal department would want to retrieve their property, and I'd have it waiting by my door. Within 6 hours, I got a call from a woman who introduced herself as Diana's paralegal. She sounded calm, professional, and absolutely terrifying. She sent a bonded art courier to my place that afternoon. They treated that ugly monstrosity like it was the Mona Lisa. Turns out, the painting was valued at $22,000. That took this whole situation from internal fraud to grand larceny real quick. Celeste's lawyer went completely silent after that. My own attorney sent a polite little note mentioning how interesting it was that they were demanding stolen goods and warned them that any further contact would be considered harassment. We never heard from them again. The final bomb dropped last week. I got a call from a number I didn't recognize, and it was Gavin. He didn't sound powerful or confident anymore. He sounded like he was calling from the bottom of a deep, dark well. "Arthur," he sobbed, "you have to help me. They're pursuing criminal charges for the expenses and the painting. Celeste told them I gave it to her as a gift, and Diana is working with the company lawyers to ruin me." I told him it sounded like they were doing a great job. Then he actually had the audacity to ask me to lie for him. He offered me $15,000 to tell Diana I'd faked the emails and stolen the painting myself because I was a jealous ex. I just sat there. The sheer entitlement was staggering. "Gavin," I said, my voice quiet and tired, "you and her stood in my home and laughed at me. You thought I was some predictable, stupid utility you could just use. You didn't care about the rules when you were winning, and now you're just upset that a predictable man like me knew how to forward an email. That $15,000 is probably the last bit of cash Diana hasn't found yet. You made this bed. Goodbye." I hung up and blocked him for good. From what I've heard, Gavin is finished. Fired, divorced, and facing criminal charges for fraud and theft. Diana took him for everything he had. Celeste is in the same boat, fired, blacklisted from the industry, and named as a co-conspirator in the criminal complaint. She had to sell her car, and last I heard, she's living back in her childhood bedroom with parents who are absolutely furious at her. As for the car, I sold it and paid off the loan. I ended up losing about $500 on the deal, but honestly, that's a small price to pay for my freedom. My condo is quiet again. I bought a new painting for the study, a simple landscape. It's very predictable. It cost $200, and I kept the receipt. It's a strange feeling. You spend 4 years with someone, and then it just ends like a canceled contract. I'm not out there finding myself or climbing mountains. I'm just here, processing the fact that the person I loved was a thief and a narcissist. It hurts, sure. But then I look at my new painting, open a beer, and just enjoy the silence. She wanted the fast track, but she didn't realize it was a one-way trip, and I was the one who controlled the tracks. She was right about one thing, though: I am predictable. And I predict that when you mess with a man's home and his trust, you're going to end up in a world of trouble. What did this story teach you? Do you think the punishment fit the crime, or did things go too far?
Bye bye.